Good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. I'm talking today about universal credit in the United Kingdom. Universal credit is money given to the people of Britain, the United Kingdom, to help them if they need help. And that's what I've been talking about. I've been linking this with the cost of living crisis, which is a topic I have chosen to speak about since the beginning of this program now a year ago, which I am still continuing to talk about. Right now, I will be talking about how the universal credit behaved in the sickness element, which means the money given to sick people, and the manner in which the Department of Work and Pension deals with sickness element of universal credit. And if you are watching this video, watch it with the rest of the videos, which actually a continuation of the topic, and to form a broader picture of what I am talking about. Thank you so much, everybody who have been helping me from the beginning on a daily basis, watching my video, sharing with family and friends, and also participating, commenting, giving feedback, clicking like, and also clicking notification bell so that you don't miss out on any video. I'm so grateful for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, share with family and friends to support it. If you comment below, let me know what you think about universal credit. It's money given by the government. It's within the social policy objective of the government of the United Kingdom, similar to what you find in other countries and in other continents. And normally in Africa, people know about pension. They know about related benefits to do with what the government give to people who might need help. I've been continuing to talk about the sickness element of universal credit. Like I said, the Department for Work and Pension give money to people who are sick. Now, this money is means tested, which means if you have the means of livelihood, you don't get it. If you have the means of livelihood and the government think it's not enough for your livelihood, then you get some benefit. And that's the meaning of means testing of any benefit. Universal credit is the main benefit in the United Kingdom today. It has the sickness element as well as the other elements. You've got standard allowance and other elements. Sickness is included as one of the elements. So people move from one sickness benefit is in the elements. They move between these benefits. If you have something called limited capability for work-related activity, which work-related activity means activity related to work. If you're a sick person, you may be required to undertake work-related activities. So if you have limited capability for doing work-related activity, what it means is that you are not required to work in the first place. Because you see, if you are claiming universal credit, you're supposed to sign a contract with the Department of Work and Pension, which is a government department in the United Kingdom. You sign this agreement to say you'll be looking for work and you'll be available for work, and there are other conditions, some of which I've already discussed. Is an overview. Going forward, hopefully, with this topic, I've been looking at this information in fair details. There is sufficient detail enough in every material I've been using to illustrate the point, to guide my, coherence and structuring of this conversation. So, limited capabilities for work is another one, which is similar to limited capability for work-related activity. These are categories which the DWP, Department of Work and Pension, use to pay benefit, sickness benefit, universal credit to British people who are eligible. Your eligibility means you are seen as qualifying for the benefit in terms of assessment, in terms of consideration. Therefore, limited capability for work-related activity. It means you have limited capability. You go through a medical assessment. You have limited capability for doing things like work-related activities, including training, prepare you for work. It means the government will say you don't need to do that because you are very sick. The level of your sickness is extremely important. The situation pertaining to health assessment is such that when the doctor says you are actually sick, you actually are supposed to provide evidence to the DWP, not only the doctor but also a whole host of evidence. Medical workers, professionals who have been working with you in terms of your medical sickness, sickness or disability. Now, these evidence are actually a requirement. They speed up your processing of benefit or they slow them down. The more benefit evidence you provide to the Department of Work and Pension, the more the more speedy you are processed. Now, the problem, in my opinion, about health assessment is that it is set in such a way as to provide authority or autonomy of assessing benefit by the Department of Work and Pension. Regardless what the medical doctor says, they are not medical people. They will say you are sick. But more often than not, the DWP saying you are sick will not give you benefit for sickness. Their argument would be based on their assessment. The doctor will say you are sick. That is fine. But the Department of Work and Pension will say you are sick. Yes, because they cannot say anything else. They cannot say you are not sick because they are not medical doctors. They are administrators. They are health assessors within the Department of Work and Pension, the government department. So they actually avoid a situation where they say you are not sick because the doctor said you are sick. But they say you are sick, but they are not going to give you benefit. If you fail their assessment, they are not going to give you benefit. And they would say to you, yes, we did our assessment. Yes, you are sick. But we also think you can do some types of work. The argument, the policy and practice argument from the government, from the Department of Work and Pension is that a person can be sick or disabled, but such a person can actually work, doing some types of work. But you see, it's a problem there because in practice, the government falls short of specifying what type of work. This is left to the client, which the DWP refers as customer. The client, somebody who is actually claiming benefit. You and the people, you and I, the British people, the members of the public, going to access services, refer to the government department as customer. This mentality of referring to people as customer developed recently with the widespread privatizing of public sector. Public sector being privatized is being treated as private businesses where people are actually customers, which means government is no longer responsible for you. You are responsible for yourself. You are a customer. You come and pay for something and get what you want by paying. Nothing is free. In the hospitals, you are still referred to as a patient, but sooner or later, everybody using the public sector is going to be a customer. Under these circumstances, in this situation, we are going to end up in a state of affairs where people will be treated as customers other than people who are in need of service or people who are actually needing to pay for service. I have discussed this aspect elsewhere. I will resist the temptation to go along that line. What I will do instead is actually try to restrict my remarks on sickness benefit of universal credit. Sickness benefit, universal credit. And else check by the Department of Work and Pension. Health assessments done, and they actually make a decision refusing to pay benefit to people who are sick, acknowledging these individuals are actually sick. The doctor says they are sick. The Department of Work and Pension cannot say otherwise. Therefore, they say the patient is sick. But the Department of Work and Pension still decide the patient cannot get benefit because the DWP, the Department of Work and Pension, says so. Their argument is that a person being sick, in their opinion, on this occasion, is sick, yes, but this an individual can do some type of work. As a disabled person, as a sick person, because this category of sick people or sick people or actually disabled people, these are people with low income who need benefit. With the government promise it will provide benefit, but they don't, because the health assessor of the Department of Work and Pension have decided, yes, you're sick, we know you're sick, but our policy states that not every sick or disabled person cannot work. Some people can. We believe you can work. In practice, almost everybody who claims sickness benefit fails because of health assessment. Then advisors will have to step in. The independent advisors of the government have to challenge the government decision, supporting the client or customer, whatever you call them, claimants, supporting claimants to challenge the government decision in something called mandatory reconsideration. This is actually the right to challenge the Department of Work and Pension decision for refusing to pay sickness benefit. And this is very common in practice. So often, all the rejected cases from the DWP, because if you do the mandatory reconsideration, which is a challenge you put forward, which challenge is really rather complicated, apart from professionals actually supporting individuals, people who need help, people who are claimants, people who are sick. This has to be helped. The dilemma with helpers, like advisors, independent advisors, like Citizen Advice or some other advisory bodies, is that there is lack of funding. There is literally no funding. The lack of resources, there's no shortage of staffing. For one reason, there is no money. The government has stopped funding public service, including statutory body, including voluntary bodies. These are also private bodies, as in business and organizations which actually provide public service. They don't get funded. Therefore, the help is theoretical. What is left is meager. Meager meaning it's just next to nothing. It's very little. It's not enough. There is need, but it's not really fulfilled. Government keep promising we are giving money here, we're giving money there, but the money doesn't reach frontline service. Perhaps the money is being spent on infrastructure, on capital development, but frontline service, same story in the social services, social sector, in the Department of Work and Pension, Job Center, benefit, in terms of our legal support, like our legal aid, and all this support, hospital, everywhere you go in transport, public transport, and public transport now is, most people are actually struggle now to travel because the cost of public transport. It's a story across the board. The reason I'm actually using benefit situation to illustrate the social and generally public sectoral situation, which is a result of a direct result of privatization. Privatization conceptually, in terms of not just concept, but especially the practical equivalence of privatization, is to shut down the economy. I've said this before, I will be saying it over and over. And this is serious for the British people, for the people of the world. Because you see, we have government running our countries, and if they bail out on us, which is exactly what privatization does. Privatization is rooted in capitalism, which is an economic system which actually promotes businesses to provide growth in terms of development, which is perfect. What is not perfect is that this money, wealth, which results from economic growth, is by design and also maybe by coincidence, systemic coincidence. These monies are transferred piecemeal to the super rich. It doesn't reach the poor. So the poor get poorer, the richer get richer. This is capitalism, the market system, business economy, business-led, business-driven economy. So when that happens now, businesses, actually small and medium businesses which are actually poor, shut down. They shut down, but ultimately, in my opinion, big businesses will also shut down because of technology. Shutting down of business means the economy shuts down, except a system of production and on consumption. System of production and consumption can be controlled by probably 1 or 2% of businesses, which actually maybe 4 or 5 businesses, which will run the globe. One in Europe, one in Asia, one in Africa, one business in America. Maybe 4 or 5 businesses actually running the entire global economy, which means that will be no business. 2 or 3 people will be owning the entire globe. Because it's just people, whoever has money now said that's what the market is. The market, actually, the highest bidder buys everything. And people who know how the market operates will know that, because, if you can't compete, you're bought. And whoever buys you has the option to run you, the business, or shut it down. Normally, they shut it down because in the manner of running business, if you cannot get profit, you shut it down. Unless you can sell it for profit, unless you can run it for profit, you shut it down. There is no way. Can't take it back to the government. Sometimes if the government thinks it is vital to be taken back, if the government is still there, because my argument is that given the state of affairs now in prevalence, the government is shutting down. Globally, the public sector, anything public sector is shutting down. 100% shutting down. This will be sold or transferred to private owners. Private owners will shut it down if it doesn't make profit. And it will not make profit because there will come a time when people will not have money. The idea of selling will also stop because of technology. Maybe in 100 years, 200 years, but beginning now. And this is a piece of information to be followed, and it derives from my assessment from how benefit system work. Is the complication people are not accessing benefit, and if they get benefit, whichever one, including universal credit, the level is so low in the sense that this level of benefit actually literally keeps the British people in poverty perpetually. Because if you get into benefit, you cannot get out. If you get out, you get into either a situation where you are actually destitute, you cannot actually access, get food, energy, water, housing, shelter, you cannot access employment. Because if you are stricken in a world where the government has bailed out of running the country, given this responsibility to private individuals we don't even elect, I'm not even talking about democracy. Watch the rest of my video if you can. I will be going through the process all over again, maybe next year. Talk about the whole idea of, government and politics in the UK. I've already actually produced videos discussing this, but maybe when I produce again next year, God's willing, then we will carry on to look at how democracy works, the concept. I divide my material in terms of concept. I divide it in terms of development and culture. So right now I'm talking about development, including benefit system. This is part of development in terms of progress. So the culture is to do with security and peace. In my opinion, how people learn, how people behave, how people decide to kill somebody or not to kill somebody, how children begin to live peacefully, respectfully with themselves and with parents, with communities, with society, or how they don't. There is the law of the land which actually control even benefit, control people, control systems. That is okay. But you see, the law is a blunt instrument. If we rely on that, it means we are slaves. To be free, we have to educate ourselves to be adults. Whether we are adults, children, or in between, whether we are able or disabled, whether we are sick or actually healthy. There's a point where we have to grow up as a human species to actually know what is right and what is wrong. But that is what the law is about. The law is supposed to make sure society does what is right, society does what is wrong, nothing in between. That is, the law is actually black and white instrument, and it can be blunt and it can be brutal. People can go to prison in countries like America or other parts of the world. You can be hanged. Being hanged means you're going to be killed. You're going to die. The law will kill you, literally. You're going to be put to death. I mean, to put it that way. But there are civil litigation, civil legal systems which actually you have to deal with debt, you have to deal with defamation and other form of legal restraints, legal sanction. In benefit, we have seen what the law does if you don't comply with certain rules and regulations. But you see, the freedom arising when we access the cultural economic platform or estate, so to speak, in the climate of progress, we become free from the constraint of development. We still have development, we still have progress, but our progress is going to be devoid of law, because you see, the law control the economy, control people also, technology. Every processing is controlled by the law. It doesn't matter where you go, the air you breathe. If you need air to survive, because you can't breathe properly, it's controlled by medical law or technological law. So law is everywhere. It's actually controlled everything. When we will achieve a state of perfection as human beings, probably we think and then we get healed. That is the cultural economy. You begin to think yourself. You don't need to go to the hospital. You just think, I'm healthy. That's when we achieve a development of perfect knowledge and perfect understanding, which is also right. It's not just knowledge, but the right knowledge. What is right is what keeps us alive, what produce our welfare system for us. Talk about now, we need money to achieve welfare. When we achieve enlightenment, there will be food everywhere, because we are producers, we are creators. When we are within our elements, we are creators. Everything comes from the land. As long as the land, even now with technology, my understanding, we are actually creating synthetic soil. We are not producing lettuces in space, vegetables in space using synthetic soil. So in terms of development, in terms of progress, we have demonstrated that we can actually achieve anything. But in terms of peace, we need to really be culturally enlightened. And that is going to be a process, a long term. Every day, we need to begin to change the way we think. Begin to think peace. We need to think respect. We need to think humanity first. I have actually said this. I also promise I'll be mentioning this so that we don't lose track of these principles, these precepts. And going back to benefit situation, which is actually something really specific, I've been talking about this limited capability for work and limited capability for work-related activity. These are two different types of sickness benefit within universal credit, within the elements of universal credit, sickness element. There are two types of sickness elements. Limited capability for work-related activity, that's number one. Number two, limited capability for work. If you are limited capability for work, it means you are not very sick. The condition for eligibility for this is that the Department of Work and Pensions say yes, you're sick, but you are even less sick than limited capability for work-related activity. Limited capability for work-related activity in terms of assessment, in terms of actually principle, actually defines being really sick enough to get benefit and not being required to look for work, not being required to prepare for work. That's all it is. Limited capability for work related activity, that's what it means. And limited capability for work means you are sick, but you don't need to find work, to look for work, but you will be required to prepare for work because you're not very sick. These are the eligibility criteria. But in practice, like I said, whether you get that benefit is another thing. Because normally people don't get it. People have to go to support it to do a mandatory reconsideration, which is actually challenging the decision of the DWP to look at their decision again because they haven't given you benefit, they haven't given you enough. When it fails, which it does normally, sometimes it succeeds, but mostly it fails. Sometimes you don't need to do mandatory reconsideration, but more and more, it's getting harder and harder to get benefit of any sort, but particularly sickness benefit. It's just there. So that's why I have said in the other video that if the government wants to reform, one of the things it should remove is actually most of sickness benefits should be removed. It probably should leave pension, universal credit, and also child benefit. If somebody is sick, they don't need money. They need to go to hospital. So the government should start investing in hospital. You are in the hospital now. You phone your general practitioner, family doctor. You wait for 2 hours. And an assistant answers your phone. Stay on the phone. Normally, if you're sick, if you're phoning the hospital, you should be answered. Normal people answer the phone within. If somebody phones you, you wait for 30 seconds, then you answer it. That is how the health sector should operate its telephone service. And if you walk into the hospital and try to book an appointment, you will not be given an appointment. At the hospital, you go to the hospital, say, I want an appointment. Go and phone us, they will say. They're not going to give you an appointment. Go and phone us. You phone them, they will tell you there's no appointment. They have run out of appointment. So after waiting for 2 hours, on average, waiting for 10 minutes is long enough for somebody who is sick. Want an appointment with their doctor. Waiting for 10 minutes is unacceptable. 30 minutes should not occur, but we'll talk about an hour. It's now going up. to 2 hours now. There is a system where you can call back. You can leave a message, ask them to call back. Then that you wait for all day. Phone in the morning, they phone you back maybe at 3 o'clock. If they do phone you back, they will tell you they've run out of appointment. If you wait for 2 hours on the phone, they will still tell you the same thing. They've run out of appointment, doctor's appointment. There's no longer there. Okay, can you book me a doctor's appointment now? No, we don't pre-book appointment. Phone tomorrow or some other day. Tomorrow you phone again. You wait for 2 hours. The doctors, you don't speak to the doctor actually, you speak to administrators, the receptionists or whatever you call them, administrators. They will say the same thing. The answer to the question is that the family doctor system, the GP practice, is shut down. Because there is no point telling the country that there is a medical system which is operating. If you go to accident emergency, which is the accident and emergency, the two places you go if you're sick. You go to your general practitioner, you go to accident and emergency. You go to either one, you don't get. In fact, if you go to accident and emergency, you can wait for 2 days without being seen. Your detail will be recorded and you'll be asked to wait. If you're not careful, you go to the hospital without an ambulance. You can wait for 2 days in the hospital, at the reception, sitting there. The reason is that they don't have staff. The hospital do not have staff. That is what is happening at the hospital. We will talk about sickness benefit because you see, if you cannot get a GP, a general practitioner, if you can't get your doctor's appointment, you cannot get evidence from the doctor for your benefit, for your health benefit. If you want benefit, you have to go to the doctor, and from the doctor is not there. Now, the Department of Work says you can get any doctor to provide evidence. Now, that is possible, but which doctor is going to be available out of the blue? They are not in the hospital. Are you going to get a doctor? You can go to a pharmacy, but to get you can go to a pharmacy to get sickness note. It's called fit note these days. The Department of Work will say, you go and get fit note. You go fit note. I mean, these are private companies. They are busy. They may not actually give you fit note. They don't have to, because they are private companies. You just go and request them to help. You are not going to go ask them as of right, because these people are out there to sell. Maybe in future, if you go to these places, you will ask for money to give fit note, because they are businesses. Our pharmacies are businesses, private businesses. They provide public services, but they are private companies. So this is some of the situation you have. So you literally struggle to provide enough evidence to the DWP, Department of Pension, because you cannot get an appointment with their doctor to get a fit note, to take that fit note for your benefit to the hospital, to the Department of Work and Pension. So that is a situation created by the government of the United Kingdom by privatizing the economy and refusing to finance public service. That is the reason. If the British people or whoever around the world is interested to find out, let them do research, or they can listen to me, or they can leave a comment below and tell me you are right or you are wrong, or we don't know what you're talking about. That is okay. But do your own research, find out what is happening. If you go to the hospital, what happens to you? If you go to a dentist, what happens to you? Dentists are not taking people who don't pay for their services. And the political argument, policy argument by the government is that national health service in the United Kingdom is free at the point of need. It is free means it is free. But if private companies are now running dentistry, private companies are now running ambulances, they are actually providing beds in hospital, then you find patients being sent home even if they are sick, to stay home instead of staying in the hospital because there's no bed. There's no bed because there's no money. The government doesn't give money to the private company. If it did, then the private company spent it on something else. It is not clear if these people who actually provide public service, private companies providing public service, if they give accountability to the government. It appears to me they don't, because the government attitude, policy attitude is to free private companies, which means they should be regulated by the government. They should not be regulated by the government. That means the idea of regulation is relaxed. It means private companies, especially big corporations mean wealthy companies, mega companies, private companies which are actually measured in millions and billions of pounds, are actually allowed to do whatever they like. They are like gods because the government loves them. The government also loves public sector, but their love for the private sector far surpasses the government love for public sector. That's why it is closing down the public sector, and actually the private sector is also closing down the economy, because small and medium businesses are being closed down. And in the future, the entire economy will be closed down anyway, because nobody will be there to buy anything, not least because of technology. But if technology is not available entirely, there will be no money left for poor people. 90% of people will be excluded from the economy. Only a few of the economic percentage are left for the super rich, the 1 or 2% of the population. Increasingly, that is the figures now, increasingly going forward, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And this is an old mantra, but it can sound like a comedy or a joke, but this is the real world. This is not in the United Kingdom alone. That's why I said when I started to dispense this process. When I said at the beginning that from the beginning that people should I should pay attention to what is happening. They should really pay attention to what the government is doing, and which is what we need to do, because we have to take responsibility for our lives, understand what is happening, what is going on, because we are waiting for the government. The government is gone. It is still there, but it is gone. It is there, but it is not there. If you know what I mean. So going back to this situation with the sickness benefits, sickness and disability. In the other videos, I'll try to explain the difference between sickness and disability. If you are sick, you are sick. If you are disabled, you are disabled. There is a saying that disability is not inability, and disabled people are so happy about it, and I am also happy, because if you are disabled, it doesn't mean you should be unable. Disability is not inability. So you should not be unable because you are disabled. You should not be stranded because you're sick. It's a nice thing to say, but you see, the reality is that the government have said if you are sick or disabled, they're going to give you benefit. I say, do not bother the government. Change the law, change the policy if you really, really want benefit. Because the reason the government gives benefit to the British people to get them out of poverty. Or that should be the objective. If it is not, there is no other reason why you should give benefit to people. Because you give benefit to people to keep them in poverty in a rich country doesn't make sense. It may sound like a good thing, because the British people need dignity. Dignity, the only way to achieve dignity in this country is to get out of poverty. And benefits should be used to get people out of benefit, out of poverty. Also, employment should get people out of poverty. But you see, capitalism does not provide full employment because it engages primarily with the private companies or even the public company, which is not able to provide full employment. That's why the benefit system was produced. The benefit system was created because capitalism cannot provide full employment. In the sense that under capitalism, which is actually run by private sector, private sector, the private businesses run the capitalism primarily. Public sector, which was created, was to intervene to actually moderate capitalism, which is actually run by private businesses. Now, private businesses are there to make money, not to create jobs. They create employment to service. I mean, employment is not created to provide welfare by private companies. Employment becomes welfare in infrastructure when the government intervenes to support small and medium businesses, perhaps and big corporations, to set a national minimum wage or national living wage, whichever you call it. So if this happens where the government says by statute or by some form of policy, this is how much employers should pay, the minimum we should pay anybody working in the United Kingdom is so much. And that's what I said, the public sector should intervene again in the economy, especially now when almost 90% of the economy is run by private businesses. Who would prefer not to pay a penny to anyone? Private companies, I'm not saying they're wicked, they're just poorly educated as anybody else. I mean, there's nothing specific about private business owners. They're just humans, and humans are poorly educated. We think of ourselves, we think of money, we think of power, we think of fame. We don't even think. Sometimes we think of our dogs and cats more than we think of people. That is cultural failure. And therefore, the government should actually fill out this gap by policy and the law, which fix the minimum wage across the country of Britain or United Kingdom, which should be done. But the level which minimum wage is there, and living wage also is there, set by the government. It's statutorily, or if something is statutory, it means it's actually mandatory. It has to be done. I think it is statutory. Yes, it is minimum and living national living wage and national minimum wage is statutory. Is obligatory. Employers, but this policy has to be funded by the government and funded sufficiently to get the British people out of poverty. The best way to do that is to raise the level of minimum wage, maybe to £20 or £30 an hour, which is now less than £10 an hour, in the country which is actually the sixth richest in the world. This is wrong. I fall short of describing this state of affairs as being evil, which it is in terms of culture. Because you see, we cannot allow the British people to live in poverty. It is on the increase. Not in the problem of the cost of living crisis has to do with income, and income problem is actually poverty related. It's evident that the people are poor. They may not realize it, but if you cannot afford your gas, with technology we should now be paying nothing almost toward gas, because technology is actually improving. It's supposed to produce efficiency in terms of pricing, in terms of value of the product, goods and services, so that people can get high quality product for less, including vehicles, including public transport. That we should be having improved buses, but we should be paying less and less, because it will cost less and less to produce this thing. But you see, when our culture is failing, we become greedy for money. And that's why those people who are not doing business are actually getting more and more money for themselves as individuals. This money is no longer trickling down effectively down the economy, so that even if technology produce growth and also wealth, this wealth actually is taken away by a few people, maybe 1 or 2% of the population. That's why you are the number of billionaires and millionaires is now increasing. The level of money concentrated in a fewer and fewer people, is that phenomenon is now increasing, maybe from 30%, 20%, 15%, 10%, going up to maybe 1 or 2% of people controlling the rest of the world resources. That is greed, and it is violent. The government is losing control of the super rich. They are the new gods. They now control the government. We elect the government in vain. And in this situation, and this is a serious matter, the business people need to be aware of it. And once they are aware, they should start a process of looking after themselves, because you see, the government is no longer listening to the people. They cannot listen. Even if they want to listen, they can't, because they are not in control of the country. The market now, the market economy now control the world. They control the United Kingdom, control Europe, America, they control Africa. So we need to wake up now to realize that it's not business as usual. Things have changed. And so this is actually seen how the benefit system works. I'm looking at universal credit. I'm looking at the sickness elements, which are divided into two: limited capability for work-related activity and limited capability for work. Limited capability for work-related activity, you are very sick, and you are eligible to benefit. Eligibility doesn't mean you are going to get it. Eligibility is different from entitlement. Eligibility means that you are someone who might get benefit. That's the language being used. You might get benefit in terms of eligibility, because you meet the criteria that go through the process. If you are given benefit, then that is called entitlement. If you are actually assessed to receive benefit, if your benefit is accepted, if you apply for benefit, you claim it. If you are actually given, if your claim is successful, then you are entitled to benefit. Whether you receive it or not, you are entitled to it. You should receive it. Now, that's the difference between entitlement and eligibility. Entitlement is a statutory objective, such that if one is entitled, you have the right to get it. This is to be compared with discretionary payment, which is actually also a form of benefit, which is not, you don't have the right even to appeal. You can actually challenge the decision, but it's not mandatory. If it is mandatory, it means the DWP must review their decision. They might not really review and look at it again. It can also be revision or review, whichever language you use. So going back to this situation here of limited capability for work, because I have to make sure people understand the nitty-gritty of the difference between limited capability for work-related activity and limited capability for work. These are sickness benefit of universal credit. Universal credit is means testing. Means testing means you have a level of income, you don't get universal credit. You have a level of income, you get universal credit. If you are higher than a certain administrative threshold, you don't get universal credit. If you are lower than that, you get universal credit. For example, if you have 16,000 in your savings or more, you don't get universal credit. If you have 16,000 pounds and less and lower, you get some universal credit. If you have 6,000 pounds, you get the full universal credit. If you get more than 6,000 in your saving, you start getting less and less and less until you reach 16,000 as soon as you go past 16,000 in your saving, you stop to get benefit. That is actually saving. In terms of payment, I think it's about 7,000 pounds per month threshold in your earning. Then you don't get universal credit. If you're a couple, if you're claiming jointly, I think it's more than 1,800, slightly 1,800 as a joint claim. Then you don't get universal credit. And that is straightforward. And this applies if you don't get universal credit because your income or whatever other reason you don't get a standard allowance of universal credit. Standard allowance is passport to sickness element and other elements of universal credit. I don't know how many elements of universal credit are there, but there are quite a few. I have gone through them in the other videos. You can, if you're interested. If you are not interested, you can still look at it. It's a form of information to inform you on the government policy on social services, and also welfare services, on public services generally, like healthcare, employment, and all these things. I've been talking about level of minimum wage, level of benefit, which, if raised sufficiently, can have the ability to get the British people out of poverty within months or even 1 or 2 years. It is not rocket science for the government to do this, except that government is actually being controlled by the market or by some groups of aliens who have taken over, who have invaded the earth and actually taken over the world, and now they are ruling over the people we elect to rule over us. They are no longer, because you hear an MP or a minister say, we want to do this. Why don't you do it then? We are going to do it. They are so frustrated. Sometimes they just don't envy being a politician or even a government minister, because it appears that it's a force. It's something they are so afraid of. They are so scared of something that they're terrified of even making decisions, because they are not allowed. There are something so straightforward like minimum wage. You know that you don't need a pay review board at all, because if you need it, then people who are actually poor should be the one who are advising you. You don't bring people who are multimillionaires who don't know. If they know it, then they should speak to poor people. People who are actually getting minimum wage, people who are on benefit. How much benefit do you need? We need at least 20,000, not 10. We don't even get 10,000 in benefit per annum. We barely get 10,000 in minimum working minimum wage or living wage. I don't know what they are, but it doesn't matter what they are. They're just the minimum the government allows employer to pay British people working full time or part-time, whatever. But what I would say is that if you work full-time, you should be able to get per annum after tax £30,000. This is wishful thinking, because a medical doctor in the United Kingdom get only 25,000. If you're a junior doctor, what's the difference between a junior doctor? If a junior doctor gets 25,000, how about us who are not even doctors, medical doctors? And this is a rich country. It's like these people do no longer think. Somebody is thinking for them, and these people who are thinking for them are so wicked. I know there are two types of people in the world. People who care about people are actually good people. People who don't even care about people are wicked. Or people who are not allowed to care about people are practicing wickedness. Even if they are good people, they are prisoners in their own skins. What is going on in the United Kingdom and around the world? I see this over and over. What is happening in the UK is almost the same thing happening in Europe, America, Asia, Africa, and it's getting worse in terms of poverty. Poverty is the one thing, the one weapon of mass destruction looming large over the people of the world, the people of the earth, beginning in the United Kingdom. So we need to really pay attention. Let's go back and look a little more about limited capability for work-related activity, limited capability for work, and the clients normally tend to move between these benefits, because if you are a seeker, you probably kind of like move between these benefits. If you are late sick, you probably move, your benefit is probably reduced and all that. So there's also care element, which is actually part of universal credit. So you can actually move from so if you actually move from limited capability limited capability for work element and care element, if you move between this element to limited capability element, the Department of Work and Pension treat this like it's one element increasing. Like I said, actually, because you are either sick or seeker. If you are sick, you might not get benefit at all. If you are seeker, if you are more sick, so to speak, if you think your condition is more serious medically, you get benefit. So that is what movement is about. Because your condition improves, you lose benefit. If you get your condition changes and your condition get worse, you start getting benefit. So that movement is like a crisis situation. So if your transitional element, which is also another benefit, reduced by the difference between limited capability for work and limited capability for work element. Transitional element is when you move from legacy benefit to universal credit. It's also payment, temporary. So there is change there because it's temporary. The changes anyway. So if you move between limited capability for work related activity or limited capability for work element and the care element, your overall payment might go down. This is because your transitional element will decrease. So the main topic here has been transitional element, because it's topical. In 2029, everybody will transition from legacy benefit to universal credit. So the deadline for everyone. But right now, you can get migration notice, which means you will be migrating from legacy benefit to universal credit. We'll be discussing it to repeat some of the points so that people will try to understand. So you're trying to work out the change in your client, in your payment, and if you move to or from the care element, you remove all the old elements from your word. You leave the transitional element as it was. This is some of the formula. Then you add the new element, which is something I don't know what they talk about. So you can also reduce the transitional element by the amount of the new element. The new element is the universal credit. The transitional element is the journey between the old and new benefit, because you risk losing benefit. That's what transitional benefit is. The difference between the new and the old. If it is in credit, then you are paid as a transitional element. If it is not in credit, then you don't get paid. Transitional element. That's what transitional element is. So the new element is more than your transitional element. Just remove the old transitional element. You don't get anything. You get transitional element is zero. It's like I have already explained, because the transitional element means that the difference between the old benefit, which is legacy benefit, and the new benefit, which is the universal credit, the period of movement may incur a situation where you probably lose £100 or £50. That would be the transitional element, the difference between the old and the new benefit. The rates will be different. The rate, maybe you're getting, I don't know, whatever, but because you're moving from the old benefit to the new, during the process, because there is a time lag, it takes 5 weeks in between, you're not getting anything. So if you are within that time, if you had been paid legacy benefit, you would have got your legacy benefit, but you don't get paid. You wait for universal credit, and in the process, you lose the difference, which might be £100. from the old from the old benefit while getting the new benefit, which is universal credit. So I mean, like I said, if you haven't lost any money when you are transitioning, then you get no transitional element. You are not paid because you didn't lose money in the process of moving from the old to the new benefit. I hope, if you comment below if you understand what I'm saying. I'm so grateful though for listening up to now. I'm so excited that you have been sitting there patiently and watching this material, and I'm so happy that you have been watching. Subscribe to this channel if you watch after this period, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.